The great hall of the Galactic Council stood silent. 10,000 beings from 47 different species waited inside. Their eyes watched the large screens that showed space above them. Today was important. Today, the humans would arrive. Ambassador Threen adjusted his breathing tubes. He felt nervous. The humans had asked to join the council 6 months ago. Nobody thought they were ready. How could they be? Earth had only learned about other species 3 years ago. Most council members took centuries to join. "They are too young," said Commander Vex of the Arxian Dominion. His scales shimmered under the hall lights. "Too wild. They still fight each other on their own planet." "That is exactly why we worry," added Representative Kala. Her voice was soft, but everyone heard it. "War should be civilized. The humans do not understand this. The Galactic Council had kept peace for 10,000 years. They did this through rules. When species disagreed, they fought battles. But these battles were not chaos. They followed strict laws that every member learned. Armies met on open fields. They announced their positions before fighting. They used formations that military schools taught for centuries. Everything was predictable. Everything was controlled. War was like a dance. Both sides knew the steps. Casualties were few. The side that followed the rules better would win. It was elegant. It was civilized. The council was very proud of this system. The humans sent their message, announced the council speaker. They accept the test of worthiness. A wave of whispers filled the hall. The test was the final challenge for new members. They had to fight a training battle against the Arxian Dominion. The Arxians were the best warriors in the galaxy. They won every battle for the last 500 years. They knew every rule. They executed every formation perfectly. "This will be over quickly," said Commander Vex. He sounded confident. "We will show them how proper warfare works. Perhaps they will learn something." 3 weeks later, the human ship arrived. It was smaller than expected. Not impressive at all. Only 12 people walked out. They wore simple uniforms. No decorations, no medals. They looked plain. The leader stepped forward. Her name was Commander Elena Vasquez. She had dark hair tied back tightly. Her eyes moved quickly, looking at everything. She did not look nervous. She looked focused. "Welcome to the Galactic Council," said Ambassador Threen. He tried to sound friendly. "We hope you are ready for the test. The Arxians are excellent teachers." "We look forward to learning," Commander Vasquez replied. Her voice was calm and steady. The briefing room was large and cold. Holographic displays showed the battlefield. Commander Vex stood at the front. Behind him, 3 Arxian officers watched with proud expressions. "The test will use simulation technology," Vex explained. "No one will actually die, but the simulation is perfect. It feels real. Your ships will feel real. The weapons will feel real." He pointed to the display. A flat, empty area of space appeared. "This is the designated battlefield. You will position your forces here. We will position ours here." He pointed to 2 spots on opposite sides. "The battle will begin at the scheduled time. Both sides will advance in formation. The rules are in this data file." One of the human officers raised her hand. Her name was Lieutenant Chen. "Can we see the rules?" Vex looked annoyed by the question. "Of course. Though they are standard, everyone knows them." The data file opened. The human team started reading. Their faces changed. They looked confused, then surprised. Then some looked like they wanted to laugh but stopped themselves. "Is something wrong?" asked Commander Vex. His scales darkened with irritation. Commander Vasquez spoke carefully. "These rules, they tell us exactly where to position our ships?" "Yes, that is proper procedure." "And we announce our battle plan before we start?" "Yes, honorable combat requires transparency." "And we must maintain these formations throughout the battle?" Lieutenant Chen asked. She was reading quickly through the file. "Correct. Breaking formation is considered poor discipline." The humans looked at each other. Commander Vasquez took a breath. "Commander Vex, with respect, these are not rules. These are instructions. You are telling both sides exactly what to do." "That is how war is conducted," Vex replied. His voice was cold now. "This is why humans are not ready. You do not understand civilization." That night, the human team gathered in their quarters. Commander Vasquez sat at the table. Around her were 11 of Earth's best military minds. They brought different skills. Chen was an expert in naval tactics. Rodriguez understood ground warfare. Kim specialized in psychology. Together they had studied every war humans had ever fought. "They are serious about this," said Rodriguez. He still looked shocked. "They actually fight like this." Both sides line up. They announce what they will do. Then they do it. "It is not fighting," Kim said quietly. "It is theater. It is a performance. It has worked for them for 10,000 years, Vasquez reminded everyone. They have peace. Very few people die in their wars. We should respect that. But Commander," Chen leaned forward, "they are giving us everything. If we know where they will be, when they will be there, and exactly what they will do, then we can plan accordingly," Vasquez finished. She looked at the rules displayed on her tablet. "The question is, do we play by their rules or our own?" "What do you mean?" asked Rodriguez. Vasquez smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had seen real war. "I read these rules carefully. They tell us what is expected, what is honorable, what is traditional. But they do not actually say we must do these things. They are guidelines, not laws." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what she meant. "If we break their traditions, they will be very angry," Kim warned. "The council might refuse our membership." "Maybe," Vasquez agreed. "But they will also see what we can do. They will learn that humans think differently. And if they want us in their council, they need to understand who we are." She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, stars filled the darkness. Somewhere among them was Earth, home, a planet that had known war for its entire history. Humans fought each other for thousands of years. They learned hard lessons. They studied every mistake. They wrote books about strategy. They built schools to teach warfare. Not the pretty kind, the real kind. Sun Tzu wrote that all warfare is based on deception, Vasquez said quietly. Hannibal won by doing what his enemies thought was impossible. Napoleon mastered the art of surprise. Patton understood that speed and aggression win battles. We have 5,000 years of military wisdom. They have 10,000 years of tradition. She turned back to her team. "We will not break any actual rules. But we will not follow their script either. We will fight the way humans fight. We will show them what real strategy looks like." Rodriguez grinned. "Are we really going to do this?" "Yes," Vasquez replied. "We are going to teach the galaxy that war is not a ceremony. It is a test of intelligence, adaptation, and will. And humanity has been tested more than any species in this council." The next morning, Commander Vasquez submitted her battle plan. Commander Vex reviewed it with his officers. They looked pleased. "The humans followed the format correctly," one officer said. "They positioned their forces in the designated area. They listed their formation. Everything is proper." Vex nodded. "Good. Perhaps they are more civilized than we thought. This will be a clean victory. We will show them the superiority of Arxian tactics, and they will learn humility." What Commander Vex did not know was that the human plan had two versions. One was submitted to the council. It followed all the traditions. The other plan was in Commander Vasquez's mind and the minds of her team. That second plan was very different. That second plan was pure human warfare, and the galaxy was about to learn what that meant. The simulation chamber was enormous. It could hold hundreds of observers. Today it was full. Representatives from all 47 council species came to watch. They wanted to see the humans fail. They wanted to see the Arxians teach these newcomers a lesson about proper warfare. Ambassador Threen sat in the front row. He felt sorry for the humans. They seemed like good people. But they did not understand. War in the galaxy was not about winning at any cost. It was about following the ancient ways, about honor and tradition. The battlefield appeared on the main display. It was a section of empty space near a dead moon. Perfectly flat. No obstacles. No places to hide. This was proper. Both sides would meet in the open as warriors should. Commander Vex stood at his command station. Around him, his officers moved with perfect efficiency. Every Arxian knew their role. They had practiced these formations thousands of times. They were ready. "Deploy forces according to Protocol 7, Vex ordered. His voice was steady and confident. The Arxian fleet appeared in the simulation. 20 ships in perfect formation. They formed a beautiful geometric pattern. Every ship was exactly where it should be. The formation had been used for 3,000 years. It was considered perfect. No enemy had ever broken it. "Magnificent," whispered Representative Kala. She watched the display with admiration. Such precision. Such elegance. Now it was the humans' turn. Everyone waited to see where they would deploy. According to the plan they submitted, they should appear at the designated starting point. They should form a standard defensive line. Then both sides would advance slowly until they met in the middle. But when the human ships appeared, something was wrong. They were not where they should be. They were scattered. Some were close together in small groups. Others were far apart. 3 ships were near the dead moon. 2 more were on the opposite side of the battlefield. The rest were moving, not holding position. "What are they doing?" asked one of the observers. "They are confused," Commander Vex replied. He tried to hide his disappointment. "They do not understand how to form up properly. This will be over even faster than I thought." But Ambassador Threen noticed something. The human ships were not moving randomly. They were moving with purpose. They took positions behind the moon. They spread out in ways that made them hard to see all at once. They were not forming a battle line. They were hiding? "Begin the advance," Vex commanded. The Arxian fleet moved forward. Slow and steady, all ships stayed in perfect formation. This was the proper way. As they advanced, their sensors scanned the battlefield. They could see most of the human ships, but not all of them. "Where is their command ship?" asked an Arxian officer. "I cannot locate it." "It must be there somewhere," Vex replied. "Keep scanning." Then the humans attacked. But not from the front, and not all at once. 3 human ships came from behind the moon at high speed. They fired on the left side of the Arxian formation. Then they turned away before the Arxians could properly respond. "They retreated," said an officer. "They are running away." Commander Vex frowned. This was unusual. Retreating so quickly was not proper tactics. But it did not matter. Maintain formation. Continue advance, then 2 more human ships attacked from the right. Same pattern. Quick strike, then retreat. The Arxian formation shook but held. "What are they doing?" Vex muttered. This was not in any textbook. Attacks should be sustained, not these quick strikes. In the observation area, the council members looked confused. This was not how battles worked. Where was the honor? Where was the proper engagement? "This is disgraceful," Representative Kalla said. "They are running away like cowards." But Ambassador Threen was not so sure. He watched closely. The human attacks were not random. Each strike hit a specific part of the Arxian line, and after each attack, the Arxian formation had to adjust slightly to stay together. The humans were testing them, finding weak points, learning. Aboard the human command ship, Commander Vasquez watched multiple screens. Each showed different views of the battle. Her team worked quickly, analyzing data. "Their left flank is slower to respond," Lieutenant Chen reported. "Response time is 2.3 seconds longer than the right." "Good," Vasquez replied. "Rodriguez, what about their formation?" "They will not break it," Rodriguez answered. "Even when attacked, they stay in position. They value formation over tactical advantage." "Perfect," Vasquez said. She looked at Kim. "Doctor, your assessment?" Kim smiled. "They are getting frustrated. Our hit-and-run attacks are not what they expected. They do not know how to respond because it is not in their training. They will stick to what they know, which makes them predictable." "Then let's give them what they do not expect," Vasquez said. "Execute Phase 2. The Arxian fleet continued its steady advance. Commander Vex was certain now. The humans were poorly trained. Their attacks were weak and disorganized. When they met in proper formation, the Arxians would crush them easily. Then something changed. The human ships that had been hiding stopped running. Instead, they all appeared at once, but not in front of the Arxians. They appeared behind them. "How did they get behind us?" an officer shouted. "They moved during our advance," and another officer replied. "While we were looking forward, they circled around." Commander Vex felt a moment of panic. No enemy had ever done this. It was not proper. Battles were fought face to face, not with these tricks. "Turn the formation," he ordered. But turning a perfect formation was slow. The ships had to move carefully to maintain their positions relative to each other. It took time. The humans did not wait. They attacked hard. All ships at once. They focused fire on 3 Arxian vessels. In seconds, those 3 ships were destroyed. The formation broke. Not because the Arxians wanted to, but because they had no choice. They had to respond to the threat behind them. But the moment the formation broke, more human ships appeared from different directions. They had been waiting. Now they struck like hunters who had cornered their prey. The Arxians fought back. Their weapons were good. Their ships were strong. But they did not know what to do. Every time they tried to form up, the humans hit them from a new angle. Every time they focused on one group of human ships, another group would attack from behind. In the observation chamber, silence had fallen. Nobody spoke. They all watched in shock as the perfect Arxian fleet fell apart. The humans were destroying them. "This cannot be happening," Representative Kala whispered. "The Arxians never lose." "They are not fighting," said another observer. "They are hunting, like predators." Ambassador Threen understood now. The humans were not trying to have an honorable battle. They were trying to win. Those were two different things. The simulation ended. Final score appeared on the screen. Arxian fleet 73% destroyed. Human fleet 12% damaged. Commander Vex stood frozen at his station. He could not believe it. 500 years of victories, ended by these barbarians who did not even follow the rules properly. Commander Vasquez and her team entered the observation chamber. The council members stared at them, some with shock, some with anger, some with something else. Fear, perhaps. "This test is invalid," Commander Vex shouted. He had followed them into the chamber. His scales were dark with rage. "You did not follow proper procedure. You hid your ships. You attacked from behind. You used deception." Commander Vasquez faced him calmly. "We followed the rules, Commander. We deployed our forces. We engaged your fleet. We won. Nothing we did was forbidden. You did not follow tradition." Vex insisted. "No," Vasquez agreed. "We did not. But tradition is not law. You asked us to prove ourselves worthy. We did. We showed you what human strategy can accomplish. This is not strategy." Representative Kala stood up. "This is trickery. This is dishonor." "On Earth," Vasquez said quietly, "we have a saying. All warfare is based on deception. A man named Sun Tzu wrote that 2,500 years ago. We have been studying war for a very long time. Not war as ceremony, war as survival." She looked around the chamber at all the alien faces. "You have created a wonderful system. Your rules minimize death. They make war predictable, safe. But they only work if everyone follows them. What happens when you meet an enemy who does not care about your traditions? What happens when someone fights to win instead of fighting to follow rules?" The chamber was silent. Nobody had an answer. "We are not asking you to abandon your ways," Vasquez continued. "But if you want us in your council, you need to understand. Humans do not fight for honor. We fight to protect what we love. And when we fight to win." Ambassador Threen spoke for the first time. "The council will need to discuss this. The test was unexpected, but Commander Vasquez is correct. They broke no actual rules. Only expectations. The debate lasted for days. Many council members wanted to reject humanity's application. They were too different, too dangerous. They would upset the careful balance, but others argued differently. The galaxy was large. Unknown threats existed beyond council space. Perhaps having members who thought differently was valuable. Perhaps the humans could teach them something. In the end, the vote was close. But humanity was accepted into the Galactic Council. Commander Vasquez received the news in her quarters. Her team celebrated. They had done it. Earth had a place among the stars, but Vasquez did not celebrate. 6 months passed. Earth built its embassy on the council station. Human diplomats worked hard to make friends with the other species. Some council members welcomed them. Others stayed distant. The Arxians refused to speak to any human at all. Commander Vasquez was preparing to return to Earth. Her job was done. Earth was part of the council now. Other people would handle the politics. Then the attacks began. The first report came from the Outer Rim. A colony world had gone silent. When scouts arrived to investigate, they found destruction. Cities were burning. Millions were dead. The survivors spoke of ships that came without warning. Ships that ignored all attempts at communication. Ships that simply attacked. The council sent a fleet to investigate. 20 ships, all experienced crews. They followed proper military protocol. They approached carefully. They broadcast messages of peace. None of those ships returned. Ambassador Threen called an emergency council session. The Great Hall filled with worried representatives. Fear showed on every face, regardless of species. "We have identified the attackers," Threen announced. "They call themselves the Krell Swarm. They come from beyond our borders. They are different from us." A holographic display showed what little information they had. The Krell were insectoid. They operated as a hive mind, controlled by central processing nodes. They had no interest in diplomacy, no concept of negotiation. They saw other species only as threats to remove or resources to consume. They do not follow our protocols, Representative Calla said. Her voice shook. We tried to offer formal battle. We announced our intentions. We gave them time to respond properly. They ignored everything. They just attacked. How many worlds have they taken? Someone asked. 3 confirmed. Threen replied. But we have lost contact with 2 more. We must assume they are also under attack. We need to send more forces, Commander Vex said. The Arxian Dominion will lead the defense. We will deploy our full military might. And do what? The question came from the human section. Commander Vasquez had stood up. Fight them using your traditional tactics? Form perfect formations and announce your battle plans? Vex turned to glare at her. You dare to question us? You have been a member for only 6 months. 6 months as a member, Vasquez replied. But thousands of years fighting wars, real wars. Against enemies who wanted to destroy us. She walked to the center of the chamber. You built a beautiful system. I mean that sincerely. You created rules that minimize suffering, that make war predictable and safe. But those rules only work when both sides agree to follow them. Vasquez pointed to the display showing Krell ships. These creatures do not care about your rules. They do not care about honor or tradition. They want to destroy you, and if you fight them the way you have always fought, they will win. The chamber fell silent. Deep down, everyone knew she was right. But admitting it meant admitting that 10,000 years of tradition might be wrong. What do you suggest? Ambassador Threen asked quietly. Let humans help, Vasquez said.
Give us command of 1 sector.
1 fleet. Let us show you how to fight an enemy that does not play by rules. Absolutely not. Vex slammed his hand down. We will not abandon our honor. We will not fight like savages. Then you will die like fools, Vasquez said bluntly. And you will take entire worlds with you. The argument continued for hours. Some council members agreed with Vasquez. Most did not. They could not accept that their way might be wrong. They had too much pride, too much history invested in their traditions. We will handle this ourselves, Vex declared. The Arxian fleet will defend council space. We do not need human tricks, that was a mistake. A terrible mistake. But they did not know it yet. Commander Vex led the counterattack personally. He gathered the largest fleet the Arxians had assembled in centuries. 200 ships, all perfectly trained, all equipped with the finest weapons, all ready to show these Krell invaders how true warriors fought. They arrived at the contested world with full ceremony. They broadcast their challenge. They announced their formation. They gave the Krell time to prepare for honorable combat. The Krell response was simple. They attacked immediately from all directions. They had no formation, no coordination in the traditional sense. They simply swarmed. Hundreds of small ships moving as one mind, overwhelming the Arxian defenses. The Arxian formation held for 20 minutes. Then it collapsed. Without their perfect positions, without their trained responses, the Arxian crews did not know what to do. They had never faced chaos before. Commander Vex watched his fleet fall apart. These were not warriors fighting warriors. This was a wolf pack hunting herd animals, and the Arxians were the prey. He barely escaped with 30 ships, 170 vessels destroyed, thousands of his people dead, all because he believed that tradition was stronger than adaptation. When news reached the council, panic spread. More worlds fell to the Krell. The enemy pushed deeper into council space. Every fleet that went to stop them was destroyed. The traditional tactics were worse than useless. They were getting people killed. Ambassador Threen found Commander Vasquez in the human embassy. She was watching news reports from the war. Each one brought worse news than the last. We need your help, Threen said. He looked exhausted. Please. My people are dying. All our people are dying. Vasquez turned to face him. Will the council let me command forces my way? Without interference? Without demands that we follow tradition? Yes, Threen said. The council voted this morning. You will have full tactical command of Defense Sector 7. You will have ships from multiple species under your control. You can use whatever strategies you think necessary. And Commander Vex? The others who oppose this? Threen's expression was sad. Commander Vex voted in favor. He has learned the hard way that pride costs lives. He will serve under your command if you wish it. Vasquez was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. I will need my team. All of them. And I will need time with the fleet commanders. They need to unlearn everything they know about warfare. How long do you need? Not long enough, Vasquez replied. But we will make do. That is what humans are good at. Adapting, surviving, winning against impossible odds. 3 days later, Vasquez stood before 100 alien commanders. They came from dozens of different species. All of them were experienced officers. All of them had trained in traditional warfare. All of them had fought the Krell and lost. They looked at her with a mixture of hope and doubt. She was so young compared to most of them, so inexperienced by their standards, but she was also their last hope. Forget everything you learned, Vasquez began. Her voice was firm and clear. Forget formations. Forget announcing your intentions. Forget fair fights and honorable combat. All of that will get you killed. She activated a display. It showed historical battles from Earth. Humans fighting humans across thousands of years. This is war, real war. It is not beautiful. It is not fair. It is about survival. It is about using every advantage you can find. It is about making your enemy fight on your terms, not theirs. Commander Vex was in the audience. He watched silently. His scales had lost their bright color. He looked older now, tired. The Krell are strong, Vasquez continued. They outnumber us. Their hive mind lets them coordinate in ways we cannot match. But they have weaknesses. Every enemy does. Our job is to find those weaknesses and exploit them without mercy. She pointed to an image of a Krell command node. They are controlled by these processing centers. Destroy the nodes and the swarm becomes confused. It loses coordination. That is our advantage. That is how we win. But how do we find these nodes? Asked one commander. They protect them carefully. We make them reveal themselves, Vasquez replied. We use deception. We set traps. We make the Krell think they are winning. Then we strike where they are vulnerable. It is called strategy. And starting today, you are all going to learn how humans do strategy. The training was intense. Vasquez and her team taught the alien commanders everything. They learned about guerrilla warfare, about ambushes, about false retreats and feigned weakness, about concentrating force at decisive points, about speed and surprise. Some commanders learned quickly. They saw the wisdom in these tactics. Others struggled. 10,000 years of tradition was hard to unlearn, but they did not have time for perfection. The Krell were still advancing. More worlds were falling. They needed to act soon. Vasquez chose a target, a Krell-occupied world called Tarnus Prime. It was an agricultural planet. 3 million people had lived there before the invasion. Now it was a Krell staging area. They were using it to launch further attacks. We are going to take it back, Vasquez announced to her commanders, and we are going to do it in a way the Krell will never expect. She laid out her plan. It was complex. It required precise timing. It involved deception on multiple levels. Many of the commanders looked worried. This is too complicated, one said. What if something goes wrong? Then we adapt, Vasquez replied. That is the other thing you need to learn. No battle plan survives contact with the enemy. We prepare. We practice. But when the fighting starts, we must be ready to change, to improvise, to think. She looked at each commander in turn. The Krell are strong, but they are predictable. They follow their instincts. We can think, we can plan, we can adapt. That makes us dangerous. That makes us winners. The Krell sensors detected the approaching fleet while it was still 2 days away. This was expected. Vasquez wanted them to know the fleet was coming. Everything depended on the Krell reacting the way she predicted. They are gathering forces, Kim reported. She was monitoring Krell communications. The hive mind did not hide its intentions well. They are concentrating ships around the main settlement. Preparing for defense. Good, Vasquez said. That is exactly what we want. Rodriguez, are the advanced teams in position? Affirmative, Rodriguez replied. Stealth teams landed on the planet's dark side 6 hours ago. The Krell did not detect them. Teams are moving toward their objectives now. This was new. Stealth insertions. Special operations teams. The Council species had special forces, but they rarely used them. It was considered improper to attack before the formal battle began, but humans had no such concerns. If inserting troops early gave an advantage, then that is what they would do. The fleet arrived at Tarnus Prime right on schedule. The Krell were ready. More than 300 ships orbited the planet. The odds were 2-1 against the Council forces. On traditional tactics, this would be a disaster. But Vasquez was not using traditional tactics. Begin Phase 1, she ordered. Execute the feint. 40 council ships broke away from the main fleet. They charged toward the Krell positions at high speed. They fired their weapons. They broadcast challenges. They looked like they were attacking with everything they had. The Krell responded exactly as predicted. The hive mind saw an attack and responded with overwhelming force. 200 Krell ships swarmed toward the 40 council vessels. Now, Vasquez said calmly. The 40 ships turned and ran, but not randomly. They led the pursuing Krell ships away from the planet, away from their base, away from where they wanted to be. Meanwhile, the remaining 110 council ships split into 3 groups. They approached the planet from different angles. They avoided the remaining Krell forces. They were not there to fight. They were there to land troops. Commander Vex watched from his ship. He was part of the landing force. This still felt wrong to him. Ships should fight ships in open space. Ground operations should be formal and organized. But he had agreed to follow Vasquez's command. He would see this through. The landing ships descended quickly. Krell defenders on the planet opened fire, but there were far fewer than expected. Most Krell forces were chasing the decoy fleet. Ground teams, deploy, Vasquez ordered. All units, proceed to your assigned objectives. Remember your training. Stay mobile. Use cover. Do not engage in direct combat unless necessary. The mixed species ground forces spread out across the planet. This was perhaps the strangest part for the alien commanders. They were not advancing in organized lines. They were moving in small groups, using terrain, hiding, moving quickly from position to position. It worked. The Krell ground forces could not target them effectively. Every time the Krell concentrated to attack one group, that group would retreat while another struck from a different direction. This is chaos, one Arxian officer said to Commander Vex. How can this possibly work? Watch and learn, Vex replied. He was beginning to understand. This chaos was controlled. Every team knew its objective. Every commander could make decisions independently. They did not need orders for every action. They adapted to the situation. It was the opposite of the hive mind. The Krell were perfectly coordinated but inflexible. The council forces were chaotic but adaptive, and in this kind of fighting, adaptation was winning. Rodriguez, where are the stealth teams? Vasquez asked. Approaching the processing node now, Rodriguez replied. They encountered minimal resistance. The Krell never expected an attack from inside their perimeter. The processing node was the key. It was a massive structure the Krell had built in the center of the main settlement. It controlled all Krell forces on the planet and coordinated with the orbital fleet. Destroy it and the Krell would lose all organization. Traditional tactics would have tried to fight through to it directly. That would have cost thousands of lives and probably failed. Instead, the stealth teams had infiltrated quietly. Now they were in position. Charges planted, came the report from the team leader. Ready to detonate on your command. Hold position, Vasquez ordered. Chen, status of the decoy fleet? They have led the Krell ships exactly where we want them, Chen replied. The pursuing Krell are 15 minutes from the ambush point. Vasquez had positioned 60 ships along the Krell pursuit route. They were powered down, floating like dead space debris. The Krell sensors would not detect them until it was too late. Everything was coming together, all the pieces moving exactly as planned. But Vasquez knew better than to feel confident. Sun Tzu had written that no battle plan survives contact with the enemy. Something always goes wrong, Commander. Kim's voice was urgent. I am detecting unusual Krell communications. They are recalling ships from the pursuit. They figured out our deception. There it was. The thing that went wrong. The Krell hive mind was not as predictable as they hoped. It was learning. How many ships are returning? Vasquez asked. Her voice stayed calm despite the setback. 150. The rest are continuing the pursuit. Vasquez calculated quickly. 150 Krell ships returning to the planet. Her ground forces would be in serious danger. The ambush would still work on the ships that continued pursuit, but it would not be the decisive victory she planned. Adapt. That was the key. The plan changed, so they would change with it. Execute the ambush now, she ordered. Do not wait.
Hit them while they are still together.
Stealth teams, detonate the processing node immediately. But the returning ships will reach the planet before we can evacuate ground forces, Chen protested. I know, Vasquez said. Ground commanders, this is Commander Vasquez. Enemy reinforcements incoming. You have 10 minutes. Find cover, dig in. Make them work for every inch. We are coming for you. Hold the line. On the planet, Commander Vex heard the order. 10 minutes. Then they would face overwhelming numbers with no support. This was bad, but he had faced bad situations before. The difference was now he had options. Now he could think. All Arxian units, he commanded, fall back to the canyon complex. Use the terrain. Set up overlapping fields of fire. We are not going to fight them in the open. We are going to make them come to us on our terms. His officers looked at him in surprise. Commander Vex, who had always insisted on proper formation fighting, was ordering a tactical retreat to defensive positions. He was using terrain. He was thinking like a human. Move, Vex shouted. We learned these tactics for a reason. Now we use them. In space, the ambush triggered. 60 Council ships powered up simultaneously. They appeared around the pursuing Krell fleet like ghosts becoming solid. They fired everything they had. The Krell were caught completely by surprise. They had no formation. They were spread out in pursuit mode. Half their fleet was destroyed in the first 30 seconds. The remaining Krell tried to fight back, but the Council ships did not stay in place. They kept moving, striking and retreating, using the same hit-and-run tactics that had defeated the Arxians months ago. On the planet, the processing node exploded. The blast was enormous. It destroyed 6 city blocks. But more importantly, it destroyed the Krell coordination. Instantly, every Krell unit became confused. The hive mind connection was broken. They could still fight, but not together. Not with purpose. They became individual creatures, scared and directionless. The 150 Krell ships returning to the planet suddenly stopped receiving orders. They slowed, hesitated. In space combat, hesitation is death. All ships attack the returning fleet, Vasquez ordered. They are disorganized. Hit them now before they recover. The Council landing ships took off and engaged the Krell. It should have been suicide. The Krell still outnumbered them, but the Krell were confused. They did not coordinate. Each ship fought alone. The Council forces fought as a team. They concentrated fire. They supported each other. They won. When the space battle ended, 300 Krell ships were destroyed. The Council forces lost 32 ships. It was a crushing victory. On the ground, Commander Vex and his forces held their defensive positions. The confused Krell ground troops attacked multiple times. Each attack was defeated. Without coordination, without direction, they were no match for organized defenders. By the time Council reinforcements arrived, the battle was over. Tarnus Prime was liberated. The survivors were saved. The Krell were defeated. Commander Vasquez stood on the bridge watching the aftermath. Her team looked exhausted but satisfied. They had done it. Not perfectly. Things had gone wrong, but they adapted. They won. The Council is requesting your report, Chen said, and they are asking if you can train more commanders. Vasquez smiled. Tell them yes. Tell them we will train anyone who wants to learn. It is time the galaxy understood that war is not a dance. It is not a ceremony. It is problem-solving under pressure, and humans are very good at solving problems. Commander Vex approached her as she prepared to disembark. His scales had regained some of their color. He looked different. Not defeated, changed. Commander Vasquez, he said formally, I owe you an apology. I called your methods savage. I called them dishonorable. I was wrong. No, Vasquez replied gently. You were right. They are savage. News of the victory at Tarnus Prime spread across the galaxy. For the first time since the invasion began, the Council had not just survived an encounter with the Krell, they had won decisively. The tide was turning. Commander Vasquez became the most requested speaker in Council history. Every species wanted to send officers to learn from her. The Earth Strategic Institute was established on the Council station. Within months, thousands of alien commanders were studying human military doctrine. It was strange for everyone. The Council species had to unlearn 10,000 years of careful tradition. They had to accept that their beautiful system of warfare was designed for a galaxy that no longer existed. The Krell had changed everything, but they learned. Some species learned faster than others. The younger commanders especially took to human tactics. They saw the wisdom and flexibility in thinking instead of following scripts, in adapting to the enemy rather than expecting the enemy to adapt to them. The older generation struggled more. Tradition ran deep. But even they could not argue with results. Every fleet that used human strategies won. Every fleet that stuck to the old ways was destroyed. 6 months after Tarnus Prime, the Krell launched their largest offensive yet. They committed their entire invasion force to taking the Council capital world. Intelligence suggested they had more than 2,000 ships, the largest armada anyone had ever seen. If the capital fell, the Council would collapse. Every species would be on their own. The Krell would destroy them one by one. This was the decisive moment. Win here and the war could be won. Lose here and everything was lost. The Council assembled every ship they could spare, 1,200 vessels from 23 different species. It was still not enough. The Krell outnumbered them almost 2 to 1. Commander Vasquez was given supreme command. Nobody questioned it. Not even Commander Vex. In 6 months she had proven herself beyond any doubt. If anyone could win this battle, it was her. She stood in the command center surrounded by displays showing ship positions, intelligence reports, and tactical projections. Her entire team was there. Chen handled fleet coordination. Rodriguez managed ground defenses. Kim analyzed Krell behavior patterns. Around them, commanders from dozens of species waited for orders. The Arxians, the Threen, the Valori, the Kryn, species that had never worked together before, species that had sometimes been enemies. Now they were united under human command, fighting for survival. The Krell will arrive in 4 hours, Chen reported. They are not trying to hide their approach. They want us to see them coming. They want us to be afraid. Good, Vasquez said. Let them think we are afraid. Fear makes enemies overconfident. Overconfidence leads to mistakes. We will use their confidence against them. She activated the main display. It showed the capital system in detail. The planet. Its 3 moons. The asteroid belt, the gas giant in the outer system. Every piece of terrain that could be used. We are not going to meet them in open space, Vasquez announced. We are not going to form a defensive line around the planet. We are going to turn this entire system into a battlefield. We are going to use every advantage we can find. She outlined her plan. It was complex. It required perfect coordination across hundreds of ships. It involved multiple layers of deception. It used tactics no Council force had ever attempted. This is insane, one commander muttered, not in protest. In awe. Yes, Vasquez agreed. She was not offended. It is insane, but the Krell will never expect it. And that is our advantage. They know we have learned to fight differently. They know we use deception, so they will be watching for tricks. That is why we are going to give them so many tricks they cannot track them all. The commanders dispersed to their ships. Everyone knew their role. Everyone understood the stakes. This was not a test. This was not a training exercise. This was the battle that would decide the future of the galaxy. The Krell arrived exactly on schedule. 2,000 ships emerged from faster-than-light travel. They formed up in orbit, a massive swarm that darkened the stars. Their processing nodes coordinated the fleet with perfect efficiency. They began their advance toward the capital planet. The Council fleet appeared to meet them. 400 ships in a defensive formation around the planet. It looked like a traditional defense. Exactly what the Krell would expect, but it was bait. Those 400 ships had orders to fight just hard enough to be believable, then retreat. They needed to draw the Krell in. The Krell took the bait. They saw what looked like a last desperate defense. They committed their full force to breaking it. All 2,000 ships advanced together. The Council ships fought for 30 minutes, then began falling back. It looked like they were being overwhelmed. The Krell pressed harder, sensing victory. What the Krell did not know was that 300 Council ships were hidden in the asteroid belt. Another 200 were powered down behind the largest moon. 100 more were disguised as debris in orbit. The remaining 200 were on the far side of the gas giant. As the Krell fleet chased the retreating Council forces, they spread out. The hive mind was confident. The processing nodes calculated a complete victory. They did not notice when their formation passed through the asteroid belt. Now, Vasquez ordered. 300 ships powered up in the asteroids. They fired everything they had into the Krell formation. At the same time, the ships behind the moon attacked from a different angle. The disguised debris ships activated and struck from a third direction. The Krell fleet was caught in a crossfire. Their perfect coordination became a weakness. The processing nodes tried to manage too many threats at once. Instructions conflicted. Ships collided. The swarm broke apart. Phase 2, Vasquez commanded. Target the processing nodes. This was the critical moment. The Krell had learned to protect their processing nodes better. They kept them in the center of their formation, surrounded by defenders. But now the formation was broken. Now the nodes were exposed. Specialized strike teams drove deep into the Krell fleet. They ignored everything else. They had one mission. Destroy the nodes. It was suicide for many of them. The Krell defenders were strong, but the strike teams kept pushing. For every ship that fell, another took its place. They would not stop. Could not stop. Too much depended on this. The first processing node exploded. Instantly, 300 Krell ships lost coordination. They began firing randomly, hitting their own forces as often as Council ships. The second node fell. Then the third. Then the fourth. The Krell fleet fell into chaos. Without the nodes, the hive mind fractured. Individual Krell became terrified. They tried to flee. They crashed into each other. The perfectly coordinated swarm became a panicked mob. All forces advance, Vasquez ordered. Hit them while they are disorganized. Do not let them regroup. The remaining Council ships attacked from all directions. The 200 ships from behind the gas giant arrived at the perfect moment. They crashed into the Krell rear, completing the encirclement. The battle became a massacre, not because the Council forces were cruel, but because the Krell could not organize a defense. They could not coordinate a retreat. They were lost without their hive mind. When the fighting ended, 1,800 Krell ships were destroyed. The remaining 200 fled into faster-than-light travel. They would not return. The Council had lost 350 ships. Heavy losses, but they had won. The capital was safe. The Krell invasion was broken. Commander Vasquez stood in the command center watching the aftermath. She felt exhausted. So many had died, but so many more were saved. That was what mattered. Ambassador Threen entered. He looked older than he had a year ago. War ages everyone, but he was smiling. The Council wishes to honor you, he said. They want to make you Supreme Commander of all Council military forces. They want to build statues. Name planets after you, Vasquez shook her head. I do not want statues. I want something else. What? I want the Council to establish a new military academy. Not based on tradition, based on adaptability. I want every species to send their best minds. I want to teach them everything humanity has learned about warfare. And I want them to teach me what they know. Together we can create something better than human tactics or Council traditions. We can create a truly galactic way of war. Threen considered this. You want to change everything. Our entire military culture. Yes, Vasquez agreed. Because the galaxy has changed. The Krell proved that. There are threats out there that do not care about our rules, our traditions. We need to be ready for anything. That means we need to think, to adapt, to never stop learning. The Council will agree, Threen said. After what you have accomplished, they will give you anything you ask for. 3 months later, the Galactic Strategic Academy opened. It was located on a neutral world, accessible to all Council species. The first class had 5,000 students from 47 different worlds. Commander Vasquez stood before them on the first day. Next to her stood Commander Vex, and Lieutenant Chen and Rodriguez, and Kim, human instructors and alien instructors together. You are here to learn how to fight, Vasquez began. But more importantly, you are here to learn how to think. War is not about following rules. It is not about formations or traditions or honor codes. War is about protecting those you love from those who would harm them.